Hello everybody and welcome back to another video of the Unreal Engine Classroom series that we have been working on. So on the first video that we did about this, we were sort of talking about the parent and children classes and how they work to have a system where basically you design something and then you have a structure where other objects are going to basically inherit from the parent blueprint, which is basically what we have right now in terms of this item system, right? As you can see, we're overlapping and it's showing what the item is. And yeah, everything is working as intended right now. So that's in the case that we decide to apply this to like an actual item in the world or something like this. But how do we go about implementing a parent-children relationship in something that is kind of, let's say, in a UI, something like this? So I figured the best way of showcasing this is just, in the same project that we have been working on, setting that up here on the go. So let's just create under our main. I'm gonna create a new folder again. I'm not going to be explaining anything because I want to show you where everything is. I want you to be familiar with the engine and be comfortable with it. So we decided that main was going to be the folder that we were going to be working on. Right here, we're going to right click on the content browser. We're going to set up a new folder. I'm going to call this main menu. Now, main menu. Main menu, I think there's just thousands of different ways that you can go about this. I think it would be very difficult for anyone to tell you you have to do it in a very specific fashion. There's certain hints or guidelines that you can follow, definitely. But I think at the end of the day, it's always going to be narrowed down to what you're trying to accomplish and the type of project or game that you're building. So we're going to go into our main menu folder, and from here most likely I will have a couple of different menus, but for the time being I'm just going to create a new folder. Let's say that maybe this is start menu, or let's see. So we have inside the main menu, most likely we're going to have like a default menu, right? And what the player is going to see, and then you're going to have buttons and stuff like this. And those buttons, most likely they will have their own functionality, whatnot. So default, so main menu, within the main menu, if you want to have like a new main menu, well, that's kind of weird. But I think I'm just whatever. I'm just gonna go with that. So main menu. So actually, no, I'm not liking that name. Let's just say start menu maybe. Let's just say default. There we go. I feel happy with that. Okay, so inside of default, we need to create like a new user interface. So inside default, I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna create a folder. I'm gonna call this widgets. Yeah. And inside widgets, I'm gonna create a new user interface. User widget. I'm gonna call this user widget blueprint, and I'm gonna call this main menu. And our main menu, I'm going to open that up because we need to start making things of it. As you can see, we don't really have anything. So on the designer, I think I'm just going to go with a canvas panel for now. So I'm going to call this CP canvas panel underscore. I'm gonna just call this. You can call this whatever you want, but I'm just gonna call this main menu base. Right now, I don't think I'm gonna be using this canvas panel for anything. But if at some point I need to do something, now it is a variable. It's properly configured. I would just need to click on here, but since that's not the case, we're not going to worry about it too much. All right, so. We have our main menu. Let's see. So I don't really have an image for this, right? So I'll just have to go with something that is a bit more basic. So I'm just gonna grab a border. I'm gonna drop it into the canvas panel, and I'm gonna call this BRD background. This is something that we can later on modify or change. So we're gonna go into anchors. We're gonna select this option. This is basically going to make sure that it's anchored to the entire screen. Offset right, we're gonna set that to 0. And offset button, we're gonna set that to 0 as well. This padding here, 0. And the brush color, we can set this to black. Maybe something like, I don't know, like 0.5 maybe on the opacity. If you want, you have to try it, play with this. I'm just gonna try that, but you can do whatever you want. um, so yeah, we have our widget here. We have our main menu. So now it gets a little bit more complicated in terms of how you want things laid out and how you want things set up. And you can here it's more complex in terms of how do you determine if you want to have like a new player controller, like if you want to have a new game mode, blah blah blah. It's gonna be up to you, honestly. If you want to just reuse what you have, it's just personally it's more of a design choice more than anything else. In my case, I want to keep things that are organized to what I'm working with. So what I'm going to do is on the main menu, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call this game mode. And again, I'm showing you the way that I would do this. If you want to experiment with Unreal Engine, you're more than free to do so. And that is the beauty about this. Game mode, I'm going to, on that folder, going to right click here. I'm going to create a new blueprint class, and that's going to be game mode based, and I'm going to call this blueprint, and I'm going to call this underscore default GM. Sorry, not default. My apologies. This is going to be like main menu GM. Okay. All right. Now I have my game mode, and I'm going to open up my game mode. So our new game mode, it's not going to have a default pawn. It's just going to be none because we don't really want to spawn anything. Um, we might change something here later on, but for now that works. So right now, if I were to play the game, nothing is going to happen because we still need a couple of things. So I'm just going to go back into the main menu. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this level. Inside level, I'm going to right click. I'm going to click on level. I'm going to call this L main menu. I'm going to open that up. And what's going to happen is you're going to save, by the way. So what's going to happen here is if we play the game, as you can see, our main character is being spawned and we're endlessly falling. So that's something that we need to correct. The way we do so is now that we're on the main menu, we're going to click here. In the drop down, we're going to go into game mode override, and we're going to select the main menu game mode. We're going to click on that, we're going to save, and now if we play the game, the first person character is not being spawned and we're not falling anymore. We still have to make a couple of changes because we want to be able to change this to be actually UI mode and show the mouse cursor, blah blah blah. So that's something that we're going to do here in a moment. Okay. So right now we're not really adding this right to the world. We're not really doing anything. And the way we have to actually test this out, let's say that this is actually the color of this widget we can play. As you can see, it's just a black background. We have a couple of ways of doing this. I think the best way is just allowing the game mode to handle this. If you want to have this be on the level, that's perfectly fine too. It's just I don't know. I think logic like this should be handled by the game mode. So I'm just going to create the widget. And the widget that I'm going to be creating is none other than the main menu. I'm going to add this to the viewport. Now if we play the game, we should have some kind of a whitish background, and we do. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. We can just go like this, and then it would not make any sense. It would just still be black, right? So you can do. Let's say that we want to try this out. Yeah, I'm not really, I'm not really happy with that color, but let's try that one just to make sure that things are showing up in the way they should. So after the widget has been created, there's a system that I normally use. I'm gonna go over this later on, but for now I want to keep this as simple as I can. So I'm gonna get the player controller. From the player controller, I am going to set the input to be UI only. Now, you might be wondering, what if I want to use the other option, the one that says like game mode and input UI? So that one basically means that the player controller, it's going to be actively listening for an input, and if that doesn't work, then the UI gets a chance. So ultimately, that's going to depend on the type of design that you're going with, because that approach, if you have a character and you're going to input mode, UI mode, with the other setup, you're still going to be able to move your character, you're still going to be able to jump. So if you want to limit the actions that the player can take, then it's going to require more programming, or a different approach. And here we're not saying it's right or wrong, it just ultimately depends on what you're trying to do. So I want to focus this widget right away as soon as it's created, because we're on the main menu, so it doesn't really have any sense that we don't. And then I want to show the mouse cursor. We're going to be setting that to true. We're setting that to true. We're going to click on this. We're going to put it somewhere around here, and we're going to basically straighten the reroute. We're going to click on compile, and if we play the game, now our mouse is always going to be active, even if we're clicking on this like a maniac. Alright, so we have that out of the way. That is actually the simple part. Nothing, we haven't done anything complicated. So I'm just going to go back to the main menu, and we have default, we have widgets. Actually no, I'm just going to, on the main menu folder, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this maybe, let's see how I want to go about this. I'm going to be using parent-children relationship. So if I create start, load, maybe options, credits, and quit game, right? We can have something like that. But then I will have some kind of a load game maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna try it this way. So I'm just gonna call this maybe buttons. Again, you can call this whatever you want. So I'm just gonna create a new folder in here. I'm gonna call this parent. Open that up, right click. We're gonna use the user interface widgets. I'm gonna call this widget blueprint, and I'm just gonna call this parent button. Again, naming conventions, if you want to try something else, it's fine. This is what I normally use. So our button, I'm just gonna add a size box, and our size box, let's just say I want this to be like 150 maybe, and 60. Let's see, we're gonna click here where it says fill screen desired. Yeah, it's just like too small. Let's see, 300 maybe. I think 300 makes the most sense. So I'm gonna search for a button. We're gonna add a button over here. We're going to be making changes. For now, we just want to set the initial configuration. Alright, so right now I have a button that I think it's working. So what I'm going to do is I want to go back here into the main menu. This area here that is completely empty. Let's just search for a grid uniform. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna drop this into the actual canvas panel. We're gonna click on it, and then once this is highlighted, let's go into anchors, and we're gonna click here. We just want to have this anchor on the center. I'm gonna set it to 0, and this is 0. And here I'm just gonna say 0.5 and 0.5. Okay, so at this point you have two options, right? You can set the size on this manually, which I don't really recommend, or you can just say the size is going to be to content. Content is basically going to be what you're adding to this box or widget. This is a widget, by the way. Anything in here is a widget. Normally, we tend to think that a widget is the blueprint itself, but anything like the uniform grid panel is a widget, the border is a widget, anything basically that you can present to the player in the HUD or some kind of UI, it's a widget. So um, oops, I think I moved something. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna try it this way, and basically what I'm gonna do is I have a parent button. Now our parent button is, we're not gonna be using this to spawn anything. This is just a test that we're running. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna search for parent. I'm gonna drop this here. And now if I were to play the game, our text button is actually, it's really looking, it's looking nice. I'm actually happy with it. So I don't really have to do anything else. And now it's where we're getting to the point where things are a little bit more advanced. Let me check something really. Okay, never mind. So let's go into the parent button, and here I'm just gonna make a couple of changes. This is gonna be a size box. I normally put it like this, so I can call this base. What on earth is going on? I don't want a plus sign. I want it like that. Now most likely you're not gonna be calling this variable, but it doesn't really hurt to have that set up properly in case you need to make any changes or whatnot. Let's see. We have our button, so I'm just gonna call this BTN, and we can say like menu options, just completely irrelevant. You can put here whatever you want. I'm just gonna call this TXT, maybe like button name, I guess. Super sorry about that. Okay, so I have our button in a way that it's kind of working. Actually, no, we're gonna go into normal. Tint, maybe it set something like that. I think that looks a little bit nicer. Let's see. All right, I removed the button. Oh God, sorry about that. Yeah, I thought I was not gonna be using that anymore. I'm gonna fix that in a moment. Hold on, let me just put this here really quick. See how it looks. All right, it looks nice. It looks nice. I think at that point I'm happy with what we have so far. So I think I can just go create a new folder. Let's go back into the main menu. Let's go into buttons. I'm gonna call a new folder right here. I'm gonna call this children. You don't have to do it this way. If you want to have some other form of organization to highlight that you have some kind of a hierarchy, you can do so. You don't have to be very strict about this. For me, this is what works. If you want to follow this, you're more than welcome to do so. So yeah, children. We're gonna open that up. I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna create a new user interface, new blueprint widget. Now here it's where it gets a little bit different, because creating a child in comparison to a normal blueprint, it's kind of a different process. So we're just going to click on all classes, and from here I can manually search for the parent button. And if I click on that and I select this, it's going to create now a children of that blueprint, which I can just call user interface blueprint, and I'm just gonna call this, let's see, so this is gonna be new game, right? We're gonna be using this guy for the new game. So our new game, it's not really doing anything on its own right now, because if we open it up, as you can see, nothing out of the ordinary. It doesn't have any functionality that is coming from the parent button, blah blah blah. You get the deal. And now if we actually go into the main menu and I search for the new game, as you can see, if I were to drag this into the uniform grip panel, it's just a text block. It's not really doing anything for the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish. So let's start changing that up a little bit. Let's go back into the main menu, and we can create a new folder somewhere on here. You can put this whatever you want. I'm just going to put it right here under the main menu, and I'm going to call this structures, and we're going to open that up. We're going to right click, and I'm going to create a blueprint structure s underscore, and I'm gonna call this button date. Button data maybe. That might be a little bit too generic, but well, no, we'll see. All right, so let's see. I want I want to have a variable. This is gonna be called like button name. So now we have a couple of options, right? We could have a data-driven approach where we have a data table for this, or we just start like putting things up manually, having some kind of a string. So I want to be able to properly show you how to have this in a more organized fashion that is more maintainable, and it's less prone to error messages and whatnot. We're going to be doing it that way. We're just going to go back into the main menu. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to create a new folder, and this is going to be called enumerators. Enumerators. Okay. So we're going to open that up. We're going to right click on it, blueprint, and we're going to create a enumeration. I'm going to call this E, and I'm going to call this main menu button name. So why am I doing it like this? Because maybe at some point in this project we're going to have like more buttons, and this is the only way that I know I can keep things clean. So display name. So we have new game. We're gonna have load game. We're gonna have maybe like game options. We're gonna have something like let's say credits maybe, or about, I don't know. Most people in game jams, they just put like credits and whatever. Let's just stick to it for now. And this one is just gonna be exit. All right. So now we have our 5 enumerators. If your main menu is going to have more options, then just go ahead and feel free to add more. And I'm going to show you in a moment how to get this assigned. Now, on this boolean right here, we're just going to click on it. And since we just created a new enumerator called main menu button name, that's what we're going to look for. And that's going to be the variable type that we're going to assign to. So at this point, we can close this up. We can go into the content browser. We can go back into the main menu, and we need one more folder, which is going to be data tables or data table, whatever. Open that up, right click, go into miscellaneous, and we have data table right here. From none, you're going to click on the drop down, and you should have the button data. You're going to click on that. We're going to open it. We're going to create a new data table. I'm going to call this DT. I'm going to call this button data. So right now our button data is just very simple. We're just going to be passing the button name around. So we have 5. First one. So I normally like having the row name match whatever the button is. All right. So in this case, it should be like main menu, and this is main menu 1. And this is like main menu 2, main menu 3, and main menu for. Now, this is the approach that I go with. Does this mean that if you're watching this video, you have to follow this? No. The answer is no. If you want to have your own names be like new game, load game, you can do so, okay? I'm just sticking to what works for me, and I encourage you to find the exact same approach. That's what the channel should be about, not telling you how to do something set in stone, but how actually explore different ideas. So first button, it's gonna be near. That's not what we want, so let's just go back here in numerators. It should be new. I'm gonna save this, and it's new game. Let me just close this, cause okay. So row number 1 is new game. Row number 2 is load. Row number 3 is game options. Row number 4 is credits, and row number 5 is exit. So right now it really doesn't make much sense because we only have the button name, but as we progress through the video, most likely you're going to be adding more things, and this is a way you actually maintain a data-driven approach to what you're trying to do. And at the end of the day, it's cleaner, it's easier to maintain. So I'm going to close this. We don't really need the data table anymore at this point. So how do we go about assigning this information to the button? So we went through this with our items, and it's basically the same structure. We're not going to be doing anything different, I would say. So we're going to say on event initialized on init. There we go, initialized. I want to data table, get data table. Sorry. Okay. Let me create the variables first. So I'm gonna create the button data, and this is gonna match the button data. There we go. And we need one more variable, which is gonna be button row handle, and this is gonna be a row handle, a data table row handle. There we go. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna compile this guy. We're gonna go down here, and we're going to assign a data table to this, and the data table that we're gonna be assigning is button row. We're gonna leave that empty because we don't really care about that at the parent level. And we're gonna get the row handle. We're gonna break this guy, and now we're gonna grab this, and we're gonna say row. We're gonna get data table row, and at this point this should be extremely similar because it's something that we did on the other video, but for the items we're now doing it for the widgets. We're gonna grab the button data. You can connect this to here. Now your children should start inheriting data from the parent. Now, as is, this doesn't really do anything because we still have something else to do. And what we have to do is we have to assign the row handle. So right now, if we go here, as you can see, it's hold on, there we go. It's just a text block. It's not really showing anything. The reason being is because if we right click here and we go to edit this widget, right, and we click on the widget itself, and then we go into the row handle, it has a none assigned to it. So I'm gonna set it to which is new game, the first option on the data table. Again, this is my naming convention. This is what works for me. This is how I do it. If you want to do something that makes more sense to you, feel free to use whatever naming convention works for you. So main menu. So now, as you can see, nothing has changed. If I go into the main menu, if I play the game, nothing has changed. Reason being is because we're not really assigning the text. So how do we go about doing this? Well, we can go back into the parent button. In here you could have a sequence, blah blah blah. That's something that I might add at some point depending on how this goes. For now, we're not really going to complicate this too much. So I'm just gonna go here to the designer and this text, we're gonna convert this to a variable, and we're gonna grab this, and I'm gonna say that I want to set um, sorry, Unreal Engine is just being so weird lately. Set text. We're gonna connect this here. Actually, like this, like this. I'm gonna put this a little bit more over here because now I'm gonna be grabbing a string. This is gonna be converting. This enumerator is gonna be converted to a string, and then that's gonna be converted to a text. Okay, so as you can see, it doesn't work because you have to say string enumerator to string, and then we can drag and connect this. And as you can see, it's quite the process, right? But at this point, our new game, or the where is it? New game button should display the proper information. So what's going on here? So the parent button, new game. We'll go here, row handle. So it's showing text block, but if I go here and I play the game, hold on. So it's still showing. Let me take a quick look really quick. Okay, so we're doing that at the initialize level. And new game. That's fine. Button number 1, main menu. I don't really have to do any sort of initialization here. Create the widget, blah blah blah. So why so let's do a print string really quick. Okay, it's not calling this. Interesting. So let's change this to construct. Disconnect this from here. So our parent has the button data, role name on the child. I'm assigning this to this guy right here. I wonder if the let me just get rid of this. New game. New game. So I wonder if that's bugged. Because let me change this really quick. Yeah, I think that was bugged. I think when you set up the information, if you already have like a children inside the like if you have something as a child inside any other widget, it just messes everything up. I think that's what's going on because right now it's working using the initialize, which is what we want. Now, initialize, you have to be careful about this, by the way. If you have a variable here that it's being set to instance editable and exposed on spawn, and then you're running through this, most likely it's not going to work for whatever reason. I haven't never been able to determine exactly why it doesn't work. I just think it has to do with the fact that your blueprint has not been fully constructed and it's trying to access information that is just not valid at the time. That's the way I see it, but I haven't been able to confirm that. Okay, so we have new game. So I'm gonna go back into main menu. We're gonna go to buttons, children, and from this point I can just start creating copies. User widget blueprint, we're gonna call this load game, and the reason why we can create copies is because this is just fall in the hierarchy, so we know it's always the parent is always going to be you can see it right here, the parent is always going to be the parent button, so it's not going to break anything. You don't really have to right click on this and manually search for the widget, just create a duplicate. It's just easier. Load game, we're gonna open that up. We're gonna click on the main widget row handle. I'm just gonna set this to 1. Compile, save. I'm gonna close this because I don't really need this anymore. I'm gonna go back into the main menu. I'm gonna click on the uniform grid panel, and I'm gonna say, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna call the load game at this point. And now I have to set the column to number 1. Sorry, that was horrible. The row is number 1. And then if we play the game, it looks very nice. We can start like providing spacing and whatnot, so you can say the slot padding, something like 10 maybe. So yeah, we're gonna go with 10 at the time, or maybe let's see, 5 or 0, 5. Yeah, sure, 5 it's fine. Yeah, 5 it's fine for now. So yeah, load game. We're going to click. We're going to press Control and D, duplicate. User widget blueprint. We're creating a new blueprint. We're going to be calling this one game options. We're going to, you can click on any of this. Control D, user widget blueprint. We're going to create, so we had credits. I think it was credits. I can't remember anyways. And then one more. Control D, user widget blueprint, and this guy is going to be quit. You can call this quit game. You know what? Quit game. It's fine. So you have the full idea. All right. So we have load. We're going to go with the game options. You're going to open that up. Same thing. You're going to click on the actual information over here, and we're going to set this to M2. MM2. Just close. We're gonna go somewhere around here. We're gonna go into credits. We're gonna click on this. Row name, we're just gonna go with this one. Compile, close, content browser, and we have one more, which is quick game. Click on it, and this is MM4. Compile, close. Now let's go back into the main menu, and we're gonna search for game options. We're gonna search for credits, which is poorly, never mind. And we're gonna search for quit. Okay, so 0, 1. This is gonna be 2, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. And now if we play this new game, load game option, credits, and exit. So we're properly following a children-parent relationship where things are just going to be passed down by hierarchy. Now you might be wondering, how do I go about like playing with the buttons, doing something with the buttons, blah 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 blah. So let's just go ahead and get rid of this. So yeah, I'm not gonna go ahead and create like a new game right now. This is something that we're definitely gonna go through at some point. We have been 38 minutes on the video. Yeah, it's getting pretty long, but at least to give you an idea how this is gonna work. So sorry about that. Yeah, to give you an idea, so what we can do is there's many ways you can handle buttons. You can, if you want, for example, as the main menu is constructed, or actually you can just say initialized. You say an event initialize. You have this option, right? You can get like a new game, and you can say like assign on. I thought there was an option for only visibility change. That's interesting. Let's check something really quick while we're working on this. That's not the approach that I'm going to go with, but I just want to check something. Let's say we create an event dispatcher and we call this on pressed or on click maybe. and I say that if we click the button, so if I click this button, I want to be able to call this event dispatcher. Again, this is a test that I'm running. This is not going to be our setup. So I want something to be actively listening, and if we press the button, any of the buttons, because it's on the parent, basically something is going to fire off. To try this out, we're going to go back into the main menu, and now if I click on this, any of the buttons, you're going to see, for instance, if I click on new game, now I have a new event that I can click on. This is the event I just created, and if I pressed, let's say we're going to print a string, and I press new game, now it's playing hello. It's displaying hello because basically we created an event that is actively listening for something to fire off. Now this is a great approach. It works just fine. It just think it's completely unnecessary because we have a way of, I mean, it's not unnecessary. At the end of the day, again, it's ultimately up to you. So the way that I'm going to handle this is I'm going to get rid of this. I'm getting rid of the event dispatcher. I mean, if you like that approach, go with it by all means. But um, I'm going to go back into the main menu. And what I'm going to do is, actually, no, I'm going to be doing this on the parent. So basically what I'm going to do is, when the button is clicked, I'm going to get the button data. I'm going to break this. And I'm going to switch. And since we are piggyback writing off the parent, now I can just set up any kind of behavior from here. So again, I'm not gonna go through new game, just not now. We're like what, 41 minutes into the video, so no, we're just gonna go with the exit. Exit is very straightforward. We're just gonna quit the game. And to try the other buttons, actually I can do it like this because I just want to be able to test the buttons, right? Let's see. So if I press new game, hierarchy, children hierarchy is just going to give me new game. Same thing for load, game options, credits, anything that I press. Basically, it's just going to give me the right child. And then if I press exit, we quit the game. So I think up to this point, this is more than what we need and what we're looking for. Let me just do one more thing. Yeah, this is just a habit that I have. We're going to be collapsing this to a function. We're going to call this get button name. And again, this is getter. So it's going to go into the section of what's going on here. Getter. And this is going to be a pure function. I don't need pure functions. If you're still struggling understanding this, basically pure functions are going to get you something, so they don't really have to go through the execution pins. But if you're going to set up some kind of a behavior, then you need to make sure that you're going through the execution chain. Alright, so that's a little bit more cleaner. We can collapse this into a function that we want. Just to spit. I'm not gonna keep like playing around with it. So yeah, that was kind of the purpose of the video. I'm gonna be expanding more on this, but it's definitely helping in terms of showing you how you can now apply this approach that it's object-oriented programming. It's using a child and parent relationship, and it's also using a data table to drive any data instead of having to hard code anything or make any inputs manually. Now, again, I'm pretty sure you're wondering, because this is something that I have seen before in the past, what is the purpose of this? Could I just create duplicates and stuff like this? Well, the problem that we have with duplicates is if I were to, for example, right now, all of these, they are duplicates of the same parent class. So that means that anything that happens at the parent level is going to be passed down to the children. But if you're working on a widget and then you create a duplicate, and that duplicate is not a direct child of the widget, then anything happening at the top level is just not going to be passed down. And that's going to put you in a weird spot where you're going to have to set a couple of things manually, and it's just not good programming. Another good thing that this is great for is if at some point you have like a widget that you're just going to be reusing over and over again, but then at some point you want to change the size or you want to do something very peculiar, you can just go into the parent button, which is this one. You can create a new function, and then you can basically manipulate like the size base, the size box base, like height and width. You can manipulate the text. So there's many things that you can do at the parent level without affecting the children's, and it's only going to take precedence on that particular children. And it's super easier at the end of the day because I now have a button that I can just keep copying, and I could just modify the structure or the data table and add whatever function I want on it or whatever text I want on it, and I would avoid having to hard code anything or having to input anything manually. So it gives you like a more professional and easier to maintain code. So at this point, I think I have covered everything that I wanted to cover. I'm going to see what we do for our next video, because this is definitely a topic that I want people to understand way better, and I want people to be able to implement this as much as they can, because when your project gets bigger and bigger, this is where object-oriented programming and data-driven programming shines. Again, if you like what you have seen, feel free to leave your comments, questions, or likes. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'm going to try my best to answer them. If not, I'm going to be seeing everyone on our next video. Have a good night, everyone.